Children of the Universe by Professor Dr. Ante Simonić. Chapter 9. Human, Gleam Among the Stars. The Earth is one of the rare spots in the cosmos where mind has flowered. Human is a product of nearly 3 billion years of evolution, in whose person the evolutionary process has at least become conscious of itself and its possibilities. Whether one likes it or not, one is responsible for the whole future evolution of our planet. J. Huxley. Humans should be observed as a part of the world, that is, as its most representative specimen. Therefore, understanding the world and its entire meaning is possible only if one understands human. For instance, Teilhard de Chardin, 1881 to 1855, believes that human plays a fundamental role in full understanding of the world. And he explains that the overall evolution is directed towards human. Consequently, human is seen as the pinnacle of evolution, so we should call to mind the words of the Indian poet and philosopher Muhammad Iqbal, 1877 to 1938. When I regarded myself, an infinitive shore was hidden in me. Chapter 9.1 Consciousness. We explore the world around us and within us throughout our lives. Our senses touch upon individual segments of the world, separating it into its ingredients, dividing it and fragmenting it into countless pieces which we then pile up, rearrange, and combine in our mind. We observe changing shapes of a huge number of factors, from those inside us to those in the field, in the forest, under the sea, in our flat, in our work environment, in the street, from those inside an atom to those in cosmic expanses. But how to memorize, how to store in our mind such a huge mass of data, a great majority of which we do not actually need? How and what to choose from the mass? How to take a pinch of sand from the immense landscape and devote the majority of our attention to it, but at the same time not to exclude from our understanding of reality the existence of the multitude, because the unity makes the world. What enables the described process of distinction so we can discern each grain of sand from the others and keep on fragmenting it into increasingly smaller particles indefinitely? What tool does the brain have for such accomplishments? We are intrigued by processes which gather individual sparkles of cognition into piles of larger and smaller units and the comprehensive understanding of the most general. In what way does our mind realize its precise processes? The widely accepted opinion of John Carroll Eccles 1903 to 1997 that elementary consciousness is realized if there is a minimum critical mass of nerve activities of the brain, and that more sophisticated cognitive activities are built upon the elementary consciousness, and that they are expressed as its epiphenomenon, lead to many new questions. For instance, we can ask how many neurons need to be activated and how do they harmoniously function in order for elementary consciousness to be achieved. Also, what actually happens when average cognition is achieved by average people, or advanced cognition by artists, scientists, and other brilliant minds? Which processes unfold in the brains of neuropsychiatric patients suffering from schizophrenia, brain injuries, and similar? For instance, as a result of aging, 50,000 to 100,000 neurons die in the cortex of an average person daily in physiological conditions. Does senility occur when a critical mass of neurons is destroyed? And are some types of dementia a consequence of accelerated aging? Would all of us become senile if we live long enough? Statistical data contradict that hypothesis. We are interested in whether consciousness occurs in the morula, the blastula, or the gastrula stage, or in some other period of embryological development of human being. Can the occurrence of consciousness be affected by diseases, medication, or, for instance, music? Responses to questions proposed above have a significant practical meaning. They could potentially be used to improve intellectual and other human characteristics in physiological conditions, as well as to treat illnesses. Can we grow smarter, or can we discover methods of learning, for instance, maths or languages, more easily? Is it possible to recall past information more easily and to forget unpleasant experiences more quickly? Is it possible to, in a simple way and not by tiresome long-lasting learning, acquire wanted knowledge and to facilitate acquisition and use of overall knowledge at the general human level, and consequently to accelerate the process of science, philosophy, and art? These considerations imply potential revolutionary changes in the very foundations of the human existence, worldview, and cognition. They overturn the value systems and the education system we have had so far, as well as the scientific, technical, artistic, religious, and philosophical practice. Such knowledge could be applied in treating numerous diseases of the central nerve system. It could open up possibilities for affecting the characteristics of a fetus and thus the characteristics of a grown-up, which would give rise to new ethical and legal dilemmas on the fetus status. The brain is characterized by constant activity. During our entire life, turbulent, highly controlled biochemical processes and vibrating electrical activities incessantly take place in our brain, even while we sleep. An immense amount of information to be processed enters our brain at all times. For instance, the retina of a human eye has more than 100 million primary receptors, rods and cones, which continuously bombard our brain with a lot of information. Namely, an eye works like a photo camera. The iris allows the maximum amount of light to enter the eye. The lens helps in forming a very precise image of the outer world on the retina. It is then transferred by an optic nerve into the occipital part of the cortex. An important relay center on the visual pathway is the lateral geniculate nucleus, situated in the thalamus. The cortex of each brain hemisphere receives visual information from both eyes, so in addition to corpus geniculatum lateral, the retina plays an important role in visual signals processing. Discrete differences in optical axis of both eyes result in subtle differences of sensory experiences at the retina. This effect is called parallax, and it enables the perception of depth, that is, the third dimension. A lot of information comes into the central nerve system through auditory, olfactory, tactile, vestibular, gustatory, and other channels, and they are supplemented by data from internal organs, for instance, information on hunger, thirst, tiredness, and pain. It requires an integrative action of the central nerve system, Charles Scott Sheraton, 1857 to 1952, which unites various stimuli into a unique response. Repeated stimuli coming from the outer world are continuously being stored in the central nervous system. Hundreds and thousands of such repetitions cause our experience to become conscious. This is an important distinction between higher animal species and plants. Unlike plants, higher animal species have a nerve system which enables the reception and storage of information. But can we be sure that other people are conscious? Are other mammals, insects, plants, computers, and crystals conscious? How to verify and document that? Logically, empirically, or by intuition? By studying ourselves, we have realized that sometimes consciousness can be lost as well. For instance, in sleep, in general anesthesia, or after a serious head trauma and while falling asleep, waking up, or during the effects of a head injury, the level of consciousness is disturbed. It is evident that the intensity of our consciousness varies and that consciousness can be both created and lost. Can we presume that different beings can have a different degree of consciousness, which is developed into a different level depending on the level of evolution of the being? Why people are aware only of the present and not the past or the future, although they are able to contemplate both the past and the future? Why people act only based on anticipation of immediate future? For instance, we foresee only a few chess moves ahead. While we speak, our consciousness hastens only a few words ahead. It is difficult to look forward into one's own distant future. While we are healthy and young, we can imagine sickness and old age only blurrily. Since science, art, and philosophy are based on brain activity, we wonder whether science, art, and philosophy will be able to explain the brain. Shall we be able to use the brain to clarify the brain's secrets? If the complexity of brain effects is based solely on the complexity of the nerve tissue form and content, it follows that the construction of a sufficiently complex machine, or for instance a computer, will result in artificial consciousness. Does it mean that a sophisticated machine will think, make abstract reasoning, feel love, pleasure, fear, as well as talk, theorize, be jealous, anxious? Can higher cognitive functions, as well as other brain activities, be based on a great number of cells and their anatomic characteristics, their biochemical, electrical, and other physical properties? Alternatively, we may discover a dimension of the problem whose solution is not to be based exclusively on scientific foundations. Are there already in the universe systems with a significantly higher number of nerve cells, so their functions are significantly superior to ours? Maybe electrical or some other stimuli move faster in them. Do they have a significantly higher number of synaptic pathways? Are they more complex and advanced than the cells in the human brain? Do they, as a result, think thousands and billions times faster than we do and can realize what is to us unfathomable? Is the phenomenon of consciousness limited only to higher forms of life, and is it an exception in the universe? Should we discover universality in that exceptional phenomenon, that is, if consciousness occurs in one particle of the universe, in humans, for instance, is it necessarily present everywhere in time and space? Have evolution processes on our planet led to the development of consciousness? Does the mind present an adaptation to the pressure of natural selection? Clearly, as a higher level of adaptation, it enables integration of various information on the outer and the inner world. Is the central nervous system such a complex biological system that it aspires to self-organization based on its own complexity? Does the evolution process in this way approach chaos? The following questions arise. Why does thought resides in the body? Is it a universal rule? Is it applicable only on Earth? Is thought related exclusively to the brain? Why does consciousness not reside in the cerebellum or the spinal cord when, according to our knowledge, they share anatomic and biochemical conditions with the cortex? Why does the brain multiply many of its possibilities? For instance, each brain hemisphere has its own memory and consciousness. Is that reckless dissipation of energy and substance? Probably not, but the basic principle is still unclear to us. What is the relationship between the cerebral and the mental? Are there important equivalences between bare thoughts and the cognizable world, between our perception of the world and its reality? What is the connection between them, and do we exist as a result? The possibilities are the following. 1. The brain creates thoughts. 2. Thoughts and the brain are not connected. 3. Thoughts move the brain. 4. Thoughts and the brain work simultaneously, like two same but separate clocks. 5. Thoughts and the brain are the same. 6. A combination of the two. The term thoughts in the given scheme can be replaced by consciousness, mind, reason, intelligence, etc., and the term brain by the term the nervous system or the central nervous system. Chapter 9.2 Extent of Human Consciousness. What is the extent of human consciousness? Is it limited, and what do its limitations consist of? What is their form and content? Is it possible to study the mysteries of consciousness or the mind in total and interpret them using scientific tools that are emotionally cold and calculated, that have no feelings? Is psychology to be reduced to psychics and chemistry? Does the brain perform extra computational activities which are not known to us but are based on the principles of physics? Consciousness, vigilance, happiness, pain, discontent, love, passion, faith, fear, jealousy. Can the activities of the brain, hidden by computational achievements, be interpreted, for instance, using the principles of quantum physics? Moreover, can they be scientifically researched in their totality? If this is possible, then physical reality should be studied in more detail, and science should outgrow the purpose of computation. Can the phenomena of consciousness and other cognitive, emotional, sensory, and motor functions occur in computational systems only in the presence of extra computational influences? Can such phenomena occur in the substance which does not have a soul because, ultimately, many claim that the brain is made of particles which are not pervaded by a soul, and these particles pervaded other parts of the universe as well? To our knowledge, consciousness and other phenomena mentioned above occur only in connection to the brain, but science cannot exclude the possibility that they exist in some other physical systems as well. Regardless of the nerve signals behaving like classically determined occurrences, the synaptic activity among neurons might be controlled at a deeper level. In that context, the principles of quantum mechanics might not refer to quantum effects of individual particles, but quantum effects of complex systems creating a wide range of biological creations. I would like to highlight the quantum mind theory, which puts into focus the direct connection of quantum information processes, reason, and the brain. According to that theory, there is an interaction of a great number of factors where not one among them is leading mechanism and a higher control does not exist. Consequently, what occurs is an endless, never-ending, and self-organizing process, which has qualities of chaos. At the nucleus of the process, there is information around which everything comes together. It is conditioned by the activities within the base, the so-called bottom-up direction. So it resembles a colony of ants, a school of fish, or a flock of birds. Since the theory discovers new areas, it necessarily introduces a series of new terms: brain window, self-organizing chaotic flock, continuity, discreteness, quantum vehicle. And its technical implementation in computers is possible. As a result, those principles can now be applied in numerous technical fields and industries, creating a significant impact on the entire civilization. People have been interested in the spiritual component of the existence for ages. Therefore, C.S. Sheraton says, "For me now, the only reality is the human mind. But how are we to understand purpose and meaning? And how can we connect them with the rest of our existence?" There were attempts to do so in myths, religions, philosophies, art, etc. Many of them deal with the quest for a solution to the enigma of the ultimate meaning, the enigma all of us face on our own, in a painfully tragic way. Are we all destined to face that issue? That is, the episode between two instances of forgetting. Therefore, the fundamental questions of humankind are inevitably related to the research of the formation of our consciousness by birth, research of consciousness of life, consciousness of death, consciousness of own disappearance, that is, of consciousness of self-actualization, as Plato said in ancient times. Do we have right to look for, and shall we as a species have the strength to find answers to those questions? That is, whether the important being transcends into the revelation of the beauty of living. The unique, peculiar experience of the self that each of us has is undoubtedly related to our genetic heritage, but it does not resolve the totality of our mystery. However, our ignorance of both our origin and our destiny should not stop us from celebrating our own as well as other people's lives as a beautiful adventure. Perhaps the adventure itself exists in order to be researched. There is, however, no doubt that it enables freedom of spirit, a flourishing of human creative powers and humanity. Aren't our thoughts, ideas more lasting than our bodies? In comparison to the life cycle of our bodies, thoughts can be proclaimed as eternal. That is, they enable us to be in connection with immortality. Therefore, although our brain is mortal, our cognitions on the brain are an attempt to transcend transience. I can't resist the temptation to end this discussion quoting Einstein. The most incomprehensible thing about the world is that it is comprehensible. But is it really?